From vision to regulation, how the UAE is shaping the future.
Gentlemen, how are you doing this morning? Or this afternoon? So I always like to start these panels the same way, though it may be a little bit informal given the current group here. You're all, every Marvel action film has superheroes. And after the first movie does well, you have another movie where you get their origin story. So I always like to provide a little bit of context about who's on the panel and what they're up to. So before we dive into the topic, can you say, we'll start with you, a little bit about yourself and your background, just so that we can get to know you a little bit, and then we'll go into the topic a little bit more. And of course, you're a very good friend of mine, so I'm always happy to hear this discussion.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you so much for an amazing word. So my name is Seyed Mohammed, Siam Husseini, and I'm from Dubai. I'm a partner and CEO of Sheikh Zayed, bin Maktoum, Rashid al Maktoum, and also the tech partner with the Dubai Police, and also having a main core AI is a company educational tech platform, which is already contracted and signed with the 5 countries. And we're having a co-founder of Dubai Tech Tuesdays, which is we're doing it together. So that's a pleasure.
Amazing. And Vardan, please.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Vardan Khachatryan. I am the chief.
Loud and proud, my friend.
Yeah, I'm the chief legal officer.
Like you had a lot of coffee. Clear voice.
Yeah, I didn't. That's the thing.
I'll be your caffeine. Just loud and proud.
So I'm the chief legal officer at Fastex, which is part of Soft Construct Group. Soft Construct, Bad Construct. And we have a lot of projects in Web3, in gaming. We have presence in the UAE. And of course, we want to expand, particularly in the gaming side, which is also our interest area.
And tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what brings you here.
I'm an attorney at law. I am an American lawyer. I've been practicing private equity venture capital all my life before joining the company. And then I started practicing Web3 and gaming law. And Sigma is a place where we generally gather, and that's where I always come also to meet the great minds and great leaders.
And I gotta ask, Armenian background?
Yes.
Fantastic. Happy to have you.
Yeah.
Nice detail. So California license, where are you?
Yeah, I'm New York.
New York.
Yeah.
It's the other two poles to the United
Although
States.
I went to school in California.
Okay, sorry guys, we're gonna have a personal conversation. Where?
Berkeley.
Oh, very nice. Okay, cool. USC.
UC, yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, cool.
UC Berkeley, yeah.
Lovely. Okay, so let's talk about it. I mean, actually, raise your hand if you're visiting the UAE. Raise your hand if you live here. Okay. Raise your hand if you're not going to raise your hand no matter what I say. See, there's 3 of them. They're not going to raise their hand no matter what. Okay, so we do have a large number of people who are visiting the country. But before we go a little bit deep, maybe we'll start with you. Can you explain what makes the UAE successful when it comes to regulation? They seem to have a very open-minded, progressive point of view where maybe they're accessible to us visitors and hearing what we have to say. But from the inside, what is their approach, would you say?
So Dubai, the main thing about Dubai is that Dubai created a platform. The platform which makes it so easy so everyone they can come here, and by any other regulations and different things, they can stay here for 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years and 10 years residency as well, actually, and with easy regulations. So regulation for us, we are checking like the most successful countries, and when we see everything it's at its point, we actually mathematically brings everything more easier. So our country looks more easier about regulations than any other countries. This is what is our mindset.
I noticed that also. I guess because we have a small panel, I'll jump in also and make some comments. So as a U.S. licensed attorney, I went around the world. We'll just dialogue this in a moment, but I kind of want to confirm what you're saying. I've gone around the world and spoken with different regulators, and actually before the EU was embracing crypto, or quote unquote embracing crypto, I was in Lithuania meeting with the central bank, and they seemed very open and responsive to what the industry was going to offer. But then you had the EU jump in and became very restrictive. So one thing I like, and we'll talk about this, one thing I like about the UAE is they do a survey of other jurisdictions. They examine what's being done globally. They seem to take the best of breed, or the best from what every jurisdiction has to offer, bring it together under one rubric of regulation, and then apply that. By the way, are people aware that the UAE now has a 9% corporate tax? Aware, not aware?
And 15% if you're a bigger company.
Oh, if you're a huge multinational, that I'm not sure anyone in this room is, but
we
maybe,
are.
Well, okay, then we'll talk. Maybe even talk about that. So generally, a 9% tax. It's great. Now, why is it 9%? Because the lowest rate in Europe is 9% in Hungary. So they went as low as they could go, but no lower. So they kind of do that approach. They try to make it as friendly as possible. But Vardan, what does the UAE have to offer? I mean, you could be next door, but how do you characterize their approach kind of holistically and go deep?
Well, UAE is fascinating in terms of regulatory framework because it was one of the first jurisdictions to kind of, let's say, when we talk about Web3, right, to set up fully, like, comprehensive regulatory framework for VASPs, right, virtual asset service providers. And the UAE actually had the first specialized regulator, VARA, set up for that purposes. Yeah. The regulations are quite, innovative, sophisticated, and, I could even say like crypto-friendly. There are some restrictions, of course, because regulation in and of itself needs to, create the balance of risks, and should bring kind of compliance into the field, and that creates restrictions, of course. But overall, the idea that exists and the law that is applicable now, and the licenses that are being granted are probably, it doesn't have a comparison in the world at the moment. Like even the EU's MiCA regulation, which is now still, right, it's in force, and it's kind of a mess now what's happening in the EU because of different regulators, different approaches. You don't know what's the right thing. There are so many requirements that you don't know how to fulfill. I think in comparison of that, probably at the moment the best comprehensive regulation is in the UAE.
And then
But people should not make a mistake thinking that UAE is this, if you want tomorrow to operate an exchange, it's super easy, you can get a license and do this. It's not very easy, but when we look at from the overall readiness and completeness of the regulation, probably this is the best at the moment in comparison.
So maybe I can add something to what you're saying. It's very right. But what we are thinking actually is that we create more jobs and more opportunities for others as well. So yes, that's maybe, as you're saying, is so friendly, but that might not be so easy. But sometimes we are thinking about further, and we are thinking to create more opportunities for others. For example, lawyers. For example, the executives, which is their on the board, that they want to get the jobs done, so that we need that people to make the jobs done. So we create more jobs and more opportunities by that. Thank you for adding that as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. So I think your point's applicable. There is a regulator, but I think just to correct, or just to refine it, let me say, VARA is the Dubai regulator.
Yes, but ADGM, for example, had the regulations way back, years ago. Again, comprehensive regulations. And it also shows how innovative and forward-looking is the nation. ADGM is probably one of the best regulatory environments that your company can operate in. And they even have regulations for DAOs, or things that are in other jurisdictions, regulators do not even have idea what they are, So it says a lot about the country.
Fair enough. So, I mean, give us a sense maybe of the history of the country. It's a smaller nation that's in an area that, at one point wasn't really at the crossroads, but now seems to be where all the action is happening. Is this by design? And you've been here your whole life. What have you seen? And what's sort of the attitude?
So before we get to that, I remember that after Dara clock roundabout, everything else was the same. So as I was saying in my keynote, everything we made it, build it with the sands, with a good leadership. So we brought a good mindset of a good mind and like-minded people and perfect people together so we can build something for the futures, for our kids, for our youth. And by that, we said, okay, what we have to do, whatever we get, we give away for better future. And that's actually what happened.
It's pleasant to have a place that actually is consistent over a period of time. But you yourself saw the country when it was less developed, let's say, and then over the past 10 years, would you say is when the major influx took place? Or when did things sprout?
You mean by the year?
Or was it gradual or was it like a sudden takeoff?
It was sudden takeoff, actually, by very hard underground push from our leaders, from other leaderships. So we've been to the world, we say to the world, this is our lands, this is where we want to grow, where we want to reach. Will you be with us? And we shake hands to many countries, and together we build this country.
Fair enough. And Vardan, what other jurisdictions have you looked at, just to kind of compare and contrast?
Well, pretty much everywhere, to be honest, because we are global, and we need to be always updated what's happening around the world, so we are compliant. So actually, we are regularly looking at what's going on in the world, and of course, we see like almost everywhere there are some kind of new laws being adopted, but they are quite different, you know, in terms of their approach, and also similar in some ways. But so far, everything comes to the part whether how much actually the regulator understands the technology, and the more they are like experienced, the better regulations there are, and the better enforcement there is actually. So even in the EU, right? There are 27 nations in the EU, right? Every nation, every as the regulator, and they have different readiness in terms of, you know, enforcing it or understanding it. There is one regulation, but like there are 27 different regulators that are using it.
Which is almost as bad as the United States, because you have the federal layer, and then you have each individual state where you have to kind of follow the rules and play along.
But each state, you know, they have their own kind of rules in a way when it comes to like state regulations. Federal, but then it's overseen by the federal governmental bodies.
Yes. Now, just kind of getting off the UAE and sticking with the EU for a second, do you find more readiness on the part of the smaller jurisdictions? Are they more nimble, or is that a little bit of a stereotype?
Depends. Let's say, for example, in the EU, probably the most ready state is Malta, in my opinion. I think because they have an experience, a long one. They probably were one of the first to kind of were trying to be this crypto heaven. That's why
they were trying to be blockchain island along with Gibraltar,
island, exactly,
right?
Yeah. And I think that gave a lot of experience to them that they kind of now are leveraging. But some...
Sorry, let me jump in. So I've been exposed to Malta for several years, and I was there, I'm going to be a little cynical, I was there during the blockchain island hype phase, and they sort of had their own regulator, and they, seemed like they were ready to go, but I don't know if they had the institutional expertise to follow through, to be honest.
That was the beginning. I agree.
And also the banks had their issues. Their banks had their issues with their own compliance and scandals, dare I say, but they didn't really have the institutional knowledge within the banks to deal with them. I think I'm seeing a little bit more institutional heft here in Dubai and the UAE, maybe because they outsourced some of the regs, and brought in some experts to help write them.
Something that nobody mentions is that similar issues exist in the UAE as well in terms of banking. For example, I can tell from my practice, let's say having access to banking, even if you have a license from VARA or ADGM, right? Or wherever there is the regulatory body, right? For VASP, if you're a crypto company, having a bank account is still a hassle. It's still not easy. and very few banks are willing to work with you, even in the UAE. So I think that government needs to kind of make some kind of a push that if somebody is legitimately licensed, then they should not have an issue of opening an account. Bank account for a VASP should not cost $100,000. That's how we paid for it.
You have to have 100,000 on deposit, or you have to pay for it?
It's set there. It's not like, it's not a bribe or whatever. It's a set amount that you need to pay. And there is, as far as I know, there is still one bank that is willing to work with you if you're a VASP.
Yeah, if you have any knowledge on this, and I don't know whether this is your lane, is there any, do you see any, as just discussed, do you see any desire on the part of the government to open up the banking sector to crypto? Or what can we do you think, maybe to help out?
Yeah. Everything, the day that we wanted to start, the high-end technologies, for example, the blockchain on infrastructure of our own governmental platform, everything is started not just suddenly, but step by steps. So we need to start everything step by step, so we can go higher sooner and better with step-by-step plans. Because if we go just suddenly to the last steps, then we might do something wrong. Like we can think about other countries. Let's say, for example, Pakistan or any other countries on region, right? So you cannot even talk with them about blockchain, because that's a next level, which is we are pushing it towards our platforms to go to the better systems. But everything should go one by one. Right now, our old platforms in UAE, government platforms, everything is based on blockchain. Everything, even our banks, our governments, Dubai police, everything is based on the blockchain. So that's how we reach this level, step by step. But towards other technologies and other, for example, the not having a perfect and right moments for the banking and the companies they cannot work with, which is we need to do it a step by step. So at the next 10 years, we don't say, oh my gosh, we did something wrong here, and we need to go back and restructure everything from the beginning. So I think a step by step will be the best idea.
I look at it in a different way, to be honest. When you, for example, create something, you cannot buy a Ferrari but not have a road to drive.
Well said.
Like you need to have, if you are like investing so much into the regulatory framework, bringing the best talent, and we see that the best talent is brought here, even for the regulator, right?
That's right.
You need to create also all the other infrastructures for it to thrive,
Right, it is an essential component. You do need banking, but thank God, UAE escaped FTX, and that happened somewhere else. I think they're very careful about their reputation and very cautious, especially because they were on the OECD.
The FTX was the first license granted by VARA was FTX.
But they weren't here when it crashed, right?
They were already.
Were they operating out of here? I thought it was Bermuda.
No, here. No, they did not start from here, but they had a license at that time.
Well, at least they didn't crash here.
And that
maybe
made
I'm
the
putting my foot in
regulator
my
to be
mouth.
cautious. That made the regulator to be cautious, which
Right.
was good. Which was good. Good experience.
I'm not aware of any major. I stand corrected. I'm not aware of any major blow-ups here. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the country is cautious. But you're right. You can't, on one hand, swing open the door on a regulatory sense. On the other hand, not provide an essential component of the infrastructure to make it happen. I think I just read recently that the government's going to put all of the land registry on blockchain. That's like a good. It was before my time here, but I think there's a big push to get everything digitized. And, the leadership said we don't want to see any paper ever. We want everything to be digitized. It's all online. You got your UAE pass, you got everything, and I guess they accomplished it a year or something before they expected to. And now I think I read that there's a big push to get everything on blockchain. It seems strange that all the assets and everything would be on blockchain, but you don't have the banking infrastructure to back it up. But I don't know whether it's the government's place to tell the banks that you must grant an account to companies that have a license. How would you feel free, both of you?
There is a lot of regulations about this part that even you will never know until it comes out. So that's not really easy because the country right now is not like at 90s. It's not just like we say, okay, let's do this and it's happening. So we need to do it actually everything step by step, and it's very long-term plans.
Okay, so at least there's some movement in that direction.
So I can give you an example. When Hong Kong actually adopted new SFC regulations for VASPs, right? SFC said like, if somebody is licensed, you have to open an account for them to all the banks. And then they themselves created the regulations and the process so complicated that everybody pulled back. Like, they tried to...
Let me get that straight. They told the banks, if they're licensed, you have to give them
Yes.
an account, but then they made it impossible to get licensed.
Yes.
Great.
Which is crazy. Another crazy thing, you know? But in comparison, again, with some disadvantages, probably this is one of, like, if not the best, one of the best, you know, jurisdictions if you want to have, like, set up your crypto business or probably any type of business. That's the reality, because environments, and there are like different environments. The beauty of UAE is not just single jurisdiction. You have mainland, you have the IFC, you have ADGM, and there are 3 different jurisdictions which have 3 different, opportunities. And all of them have their own, advantages. Some disadvantages.
I would even say there's 4. There's DFC, ADGM, there's all of the UAE other than Dubai, and there's Dubai. Because Dubai is VARA.
For crypto only, if you are talking about crypto, yeah. I was talking about generally, financial services or just jurisdiction-wise. And 2 of them are common law jurisdictions. One is, civil law, mainland. UAE.
And dare I ask, where are you set up?
We have
or are you set
our
up?
holding is in the IFC. Our operator crypto company VASP is set up in World Trade Center because that's where VARA is as well, the regulator, and most of the crypto companies are there. But we also have many mainland companies as well.
Interesting. And then what do you see as the future direction of UAE regulation or progress? And, especially as the rest of the Gulf and the rest of the world, I think, is beginning to open their doors towards crypto and everything else. I mean, Saudi is going to be a big competition. Other countries are a big competition, I think.
I think Saudi is so far behind in comparison that it's going to take a long time for them to, catch up with the UAE.
You sure that's not famous? There might be famous last words. They seem to move fast when they want to.
I don't think so.
Siam, if you were to predict out the future, regulation and competition, especially in the Gulf, what do you see?
Well, the first thing we want to see the robots here. We want to see the technology here and makes people lives more easier. So I think that's the main vision right now. And also the future goes with the sustainability, which is we are working on, is a D3 plan D3. So that will be the next 5 to 10 years Dubai plans, sustainability, technology, and more safety for the people.
But then how do you compete with other countries like Saudi? These countries cooperate, which is part of what's great here, but they also compete. So looking into the future, looking into the later 2020s, what do you think the situation is going to be like in this neighborhood?
I'll give you the answer about that. But before that, we started, for example, the technology towards the country, for example, AI, and we built the Museum of the Future and all this stuff. So right now, the roots of technology to the country is very strong. So we moved on to other sectors, actually. We're going to Longevity City, actually. We're going to...
You dropped your voice. Longevity City. That's a yes.
And we actually are now going to gaming, which is the regulations started from the November 2024. So actually, this is where exactly you can see the route is building right now. So right now we are building the gaming route, and also we are building the sustainability, which is we are having to plant millions of trees towards the country to make sure that our sustainability is stable within the next 10 years. And yeah, so God bless you. So regarding the having a competitors, actually, this is the best thing a country can ask.
Okay.
Actually, this is what we want. This is what every person, every country needs to have a great and smart competitors, so we can just go higher, to never left behind, and bring new innovations on the platform.
That's true. The only way to get better is to battle a better opponent.
That's right.
I love it.
So I think the future, what I look at, is considering like what was before, past performance. So far, it's
Was that like one of those disclaimers, like past performance is no indicator of future gains or something?
In this case, like it can tell you like what's the future. I feel like it's gonna evolve and get better, and UAE seems to be like focusing a lot on creating the best environment for businesses. The only concern that I have a little bit, just because I'm not just a legal guy, but I'm also involved in the board, from the business perspective, is the taxes that are coming up. Because there will be competition with some kind of offshore jurisdictions that for some businesses, they will try to choose that over this, because they will be paying zero taxes there, and here they will pay something, even if it's small, but for businesses, even like small amount of tax is something.
But then again, they're now operating in a jurisdiction that's off the gray list. I mean, there's some. Maybe it's heretical to say, but maybe
not all zero tax places are gray list.
So
but maybe they're going to be. And here you got at least more confidence they won't be back on there.
I think gray list has no connection with taxes. It's more of like compliance issues, but yeah.
Well, it was on the OECD. I'm not sure.
OECD, makes you to increase taxes in a way. Yeah.
Or
but the gray list is OFAC.
Fine. Maybe I'm using wrong terminology, but let me put it this way: they were on the S list for having zero taxes, and now they're off the S list.
Yeah.
Good. You were gonna say?
Yeah,
Final
I wanted to add, like, there is many countries that are having the tax, but they're not really clear what's going to happen with those taxes. Here in UAE, especially Dubai, we are showing actually where those taxes are invested. Like right now, we are invested in France. We're investing it there, so we can make sure that UAE positions goes a little bit more higher to the world. So every pennies is counted and well invested, and for the people, residents, and also the country itself. So that's, I think, it's
That's
helping.
Unlike in Europe, dare I say?
Yeah,
That's fair enough.
that makes like the United Arab Emirates to go to the better level amongst any other countries, which is we are doing we are competing with them.
I'm getting the sign from our fantastic big boss. A big round of applause for our panel. Guys, well done. Big round of thank you.